Hi everyone, welcome to Lesson 4 of the Maple Leaf Rag. We'll be going over motifs, phrases, and themes in this lesson. But first I wanted to go over some more things about Scott Joplin as a composer. So Scott Joplin's greatest hit was considered to be the Maple Leaf Rag. Over 1899 to 1900, it achieved international status. And after he composed this piece, ragtime became the rage across the world. So Scott Joplin's other two most famous pieces are the Pineapple Rag and the Entertainer. And odds are you've probably heard both of these at one time or another. You would probably recognize them. But they're also really famous pieces that are fun to learn and fun to listen to. And I will provide links to both of these pieces sometime before the end of this series, so you'll be able to visit a website to listen to these two other pieces that he's most famous for. Even though he has made many, many other pieces than these, but these are probably the three most well-known of the things that he's composed. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about ragtime. Ragtime has rules that in order for it to be ragtime, it has to fit a certain set of rules. One of those things is that it's characterized by 3 to 4 sections that feature a different theme or melody. So we're going to be talking about the difference between motifs, phrases, and themes. So one way to think about motifs is to use letters to identify the segment of the song that we're talking about. So with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, let's go back to something really simple where we can identify some of these things easily. We have a section here, starts out so that was this first line. We could call that first line A. And that's kind of a unique portion of the song. Then it goes on in the second line. So to me, that was a repeat of these two measures, and then it was repeated here with 2 measures. So you could say that was A, B, B, meaning this is the first type, that's the second type. And then how does it end? It ends like at the beginning. The first line and the third line are exactly the same. So this song would be A, B, B, A, would be the structure of that song for Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And you can hear how it's different. You can almost sometimes think of it like a verse and a chorus, but really it's just a change in the melody that's identifiable, and it's oftentimes it's kind of sandwiched between A and A. You often open with a certain structure in a song, and it's very common to close with the same structure. It kind of helps to bring the song to a conclusion when you end it with the same phrase as at the beginning, almost like writing an essay. Okay, so that was one motif structure. Let's look at another one. Now this one's more complicated, but again, I'm just going to play the right hand. It's just a melody only. are here. So that one, even though there was a lot of notes and to listen to there, but you could sort of make a case that the whole beginning part here may have sounded like two different parts, but you could extend it so that this whole beginning part was A, and then when it slowed down in the middle, that could be the B section, all the way up to here, where it's set up to then begin A again, and A plays all the way through. So this is a simple A-B-A pattern. Let's listen again. So you may have been tempted to say, you know, this was A, and then the second line here was B, and then we had C here, and C sort of repeating, but not completely. So you might make a case for A, B, C, D, and then A and B again. But in general, you know, with the phrasing and everything and the motifs, it's that it's taking the same structure, not that it's exactly the same note for note. So I think in general for this Tetris theme, ABA fits for this one. So you can hear those different melodies coming through. So now I'm going to play something with both hands and see if you can hear the different motif pattern here. Okay, so we have this two-measure portion, and then it repeats. So you could either say A for the whole four-measure thing, or you could say it was A. Let's just say A, and the A will be the repeated two-measure thing here. Then we have this part. That's something totally different, so we'll call that B. Then it goes back to A again. Okay, so we'll write A. And then let's see what the last part is. And that's very different from B, right? So this is A, B, A, C. Okay, so listen for the A, B, A, C. Here's A. Moving on to B. And back to A. C. So that's Bach's Minuet in G major, and that's a famous piece. It has the structure as A-B-A-C, sort of at a simple level. There could be more analysis that you could do, but in general, you can kind of hear that A-B-A-C pattern there. So what I want to review here about Maple Leaf Rag, so You probably feel that in your version here, there actually are very distinct sections. That's kind of how we've gone about learning this. So we learn the first line, which is basically this phrase here, repeated here. So the first line is just 1 2 measure phrase repeated. And it's a very distinct sound. Then it goes to a different kind of sound here. That is repeated, this measure, and then the measure is repeated, then this new measure, which is repeated, and then we have 1 2 3 4 measures that are a very distinct sound, followed by a repeat of those 4 measures. So we have 1 2 3 4. This is an exact repeat. 1 2 3 4, exact repeat of that. The other thing I want to point out is I had written 12 here. This measure here is actually 12. So you could keep it there and just keep your 12 and then just put an arrow there to show that it's that measure there. Or you can write a new 12 there and turn that into a 13. In terms of what the different things mean, the different terms, motif versus phrasing versus themes, I think that it has to do with the size of the chunk of music. So the phrase is kind of like a portion of a melody. And the same with a motif, similar kind of thing. Motifs and phrasing are similar, whereas a theme is it could be a standalone thing. You can think of Star Wars and all the different themes associated with that. Luke Skywalker has his own theme. Then there's the main movie theme. Then there's Princess Leia has her own theme, and Yoda has his. They all have a different theme, which is a standalone section of the music that by itself could just be its own thing. It doesn't have to be embedded in a bigger structure. Whereas the phrasing and motifs kind of have to be part of this song. You couldn't just extract this one piece and say, here's the piece that I'm playing. So that's kind of where it's different. But I just wanted to point out that this whole thing put together makes up the theme, one of the themes. It's the first theme of the full Maple Leaf Rag, and it's part A. So you've learned the simplified version of part A of the Maple Leaf Rag. And there are 4 sections or themes in the full version that you'll hear how they all sound really different. There's a lot going on with each one, and each theme or section has its own motifs, phrasing, repeats, and so forth. I want to point out here now what we didn't go over last time, which is the first and second ending. So what's happening here is you start here and you play all the way through, first line, second line, third line, and then you come to the fourth line. You're going to play 1 2 3, and then those dots there tell you to go back to the beginning. Play here, 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 all the way up to where this line is. You're not going to play these 2 measures. Instead, you're going to play these 2 measures. Now, these 2 measures look different than here, but there's something interesting about them. They actually are the same notes. So I know we've done note reviews here, but we have the first space note here in the treble clef is F, then we have G, then we have A flat, then back to F, G, and then A natural. Up here, so remember the first space note is F. Here's the top line note. So remember the saying, every good boy does fine. So that's F, an octave higher. And we usually say 8 VA for that. So if it had been written like this, the same way, and it had this notation 8v8, you would actually be playing what they wrote in here. So they didn't want to complicate things with the 8va there. So they just wrote it the way it would be, an octave higher. So there's F, and then a step up from that is G, A flat, and so on. So it's exactly the same thing, but it's one octave higher. So I would just like to say that that is an optional ending to do these last two measures, 8va or an octave higher. You could just play this again and end it that way. You would leave off this lead-in note though, because this note here is the lead-in for beginning again. So when you do these two measures and go back up, you don't play this because you already played it here, if that makes sense. Okay, so we'll go to the keyboard now and we'll walk you through doing this second ending here. So at measure 9, we learned this 4-measure phrase, and then we repeat it here at measure 13. So let's just go through that. Then we repeat. Okay, so that you hear how that was identical. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, followed by the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have the pickup note here and go back to the beginning. So let's go to measure 13 and pretend that it's the second time we're going through, and I'll demonstrate from the beginning so you'll be able to see what it sounds like. We're going to be at measure 13 as if it's the second time through. Okay. So that's what it sounds like at the very end when you do it this way. But again, this is optional. You could do it this way, just ending it with the first ending again and leaving off that last note. Okay, so so does that make sense? Here we were down here at this F, and then we went an octave higher to this F, which is the F above treble C. And it's just the right hand that goes up there. The left hand stays where it is. Okay, so I think we're probably ready to go from the beginning. Okay, so in today's lesson, we went over the first and second ending of your arrangement of Maple Leaf Rag. We've discussed the differences between motifs, phrases, and themes. And in our last lesson for Series 2, we're going to be identifying themes in the Maple Leaf Rag. There are the 4 distinct themes found in Maple Leaf Rag, and we'll be identifying those in that piece. So I hope to see you then.